So this is a fan mounting option. Well, I guess it's more than one option. And this is by Exotek. So Exotek makes a few things. They make the clamp. That's the part number right here. So that is 1718. Now BLK, it's just because it's black. I'm not sure what other colors they have, to be honest. Maybe they have blue. But this is just a fan. So you can use this mount to mount a fan just with this ring. The other option, which I'm going to show you here, will be using, they call it the fan blaster. Now this happens to be a 30 millimeter. They do have a 40 millimeter. This is part number 1917 for the 30 millimeter fan. This is a shroud, so it's an aluminum shroud. Now, if you use just the ring setup, you're going to be gaining about 3 grams in mass. If you use this setup, you're going to be gaining, now I pre-weighed these, 11 grams with all the parts that you need. So it's the shroud with the ring and the screws. So the 4 screws for the fan and the screw that locks the ring, as well as the one that holds the shroud onto the ring. So that's something to keep in mind. So 3 grams just for the ring and the mount, which I'll show you, versus 11. Now here are the parts. So if you buy the ring kit, it will come with this component, screw, and another screw. So this one right over here is going to be the one that locks the ring. So that's going to go right in there. That will go in there. This one is to hold whatever goes in the ring. So if you are mounting the fan directly onto this part, you will need a screw to go from the fan onto this mount. Now, quick little thing. This is threaded, so this screw will go in here. This little section has one side that is threaded here and one that is not threaded over here. Now, you have different mounting options with this, and I'm going to go ahead, just to make it easier for me, I'm going to go ahead and apply thread lock. I don't want to get the towel too dirty. There we go. So I'm just going to apply thread lock. Now, before you mount the screws, you should really clean them out, get the machining oil off of them. Rubbing alcohol works. So that's my recommendation. Not that you have to follow, it's not that crucial really on something like this. It's just a recommendation. Now, as you can see, this one's already fully mounted. Just so it's upright. And you can mount this perfectly horizontal. I'll just have to remove the receiver, relocate it, maybe stand it up. You can mount it up here, there. You just have to be careful that it doesn't come into contact with the wires, so you may have to shift the motor on the mount. But this is the way I chose to mount the fan. And I put this closer to the center, mainly so it gets all the laminations and blow some air in there. So I will go ahead and put this over here. Now the ring is actually quite flexible, but do not over flex it. And I'm going to be honest, the position is not going to matter unless something gets in the way. Now, because of how I'm planning on mounting this shroud on this car, it will matter. Now, first of all, notice the receiver is different, so I am going to have to change the receiver, but the ring will be placed in a different way. I'm just going to move the receiver off to the side right now. That way I have more space so I can show you. But you have to keep in mind that whatever you're mounting, you have to have access. Now the ring will expand enough for the wires, as you can see. So I'm going to send it through the sensor. Now you can always disconnect the sensor wires and just do that. This is already soldered. If nothing is soldered, then go ahead and mount the ring before you place the wires. Now on some motors, if these wires had been soldered from the other side, so instead of this way, they were soldered this way, there is just enough space for this to go right here at the edge of the motor. Now, if you were to do something like that, let's just say I place this here, then this could go right in here or here. It's up to you. It can go like this, for example. And then the fan can mount at an angle. So you can mount it at an angle here, slightly more of an angle, or you can mount this perpendicular to the motor, just like that. And again, you can move this ring, so this can be moved up, down, a variety of ways. But these are the angles that you have. So that's probably a 45. I haven't measured it, but it's probably a 45 degree. So you can go 45 degree to the motor. So especially on buggies, for example, two-wheel drive buggies, if you want to mount this off to the side, for example, team associated buggies, TLR as well, because of the way the motor is. So you can go ahead and mount it at that 45 degree. Or if you can run it parallel to the motor, go parallel to the motor. Now, that is not the way I'm going to mount it though. I'm going to go ahead and remove this. I want to mount it just like that one. And the way that I mounted this was by going through here, and then I went through the wires, well, over the wires, I should say. And yes, this is flexible enough to where even though all of this is soldered, I can go in here and then just slide this over. When you do this, make sure you have more than enough gap in here so that the ring does not come in contact with the wires. So I'm going to go ahead and grab the smaller screw, so that's going to be your 1.5. Let's go ahead and pick that one up. And this screw will go right in here. Do not over tighten this, because if you strip it, that's it. I mean, you could go and tap with a larger one, but I wouldn't recommend it. Just do not over tighten. Now, I'm not going to tighten it fully. Well, although I could, but I'm not going to, mainly because I want this to still be able to rotate. Now, at this point, for example, say this, you can go ahead and install it this way, which I'm not installing, so I'm just going to use the driver to hold the spot. And one of the things to note is you're going to be driving a screw through here, so you want to make sure the wires are not in the way. But say you mount it this way, so as you can see, you can mount the fan at a 45 degree angle, or you can mount it vertically over here. Now, because I have 3 arms, I'm kidding, I don't. Here we go. So the fan can go like this, or the fan can go over here. Now notice here in this car, I don't have enough space to mount it this way, so this way would be a better way, but then it takes a lot of space. Then I would need to find another place to mount the receiver. Although, like I said, you can always switch the fan to the back part, you can always mount it on top, remove the motor, turn the motor this way or that way, whichever way, depending on how much you have on the wires. Now, that's the way this one would work. Just drive a screw through it. I am not going to be using this. I'm going to be mounting this onto the shroud. Now, the shroud has this one milled area, so this little cutout here, that's where the screw's going to go through. So whenever you mount the fan, keep in mind that this will sit like this. That's something to note. Right, so if you don't mount the fan the other way, it's not going to work. Now here, it's going to depend on how you want the wires. Let me go ahead and just place them. Oh wait, I'm going the wrong way. They go in this way. So put the wires in. That one's out of the way. So the key is to not short anything. That's really it. So this is out of the way. When I put the shroud on, nothing's gonna happen. I like the wires to come out the top, and there it is. So this will go like this. Now also notice the fan direction. As this spins, now you can tell which way a fan spins because of the curve of the blades. So if the blades are curved as they are, see how they're curved down? That means this top part, this is the direction that it's going. It's gonna go the direction of the top. So as it spins this way, it's gonna blow the air into the motor. That's the way that you want it to go. You don't want it to pull the air the other way. You want the fresh air to hit the motor. Gonna go ahead and drop these screws. And these are 1.5s. Make sure you're not pinching the wires. And normally I would say do not fully tighten this, but all of this stuff is so well machined that it's there we go. So just go to the opposite side. And do not over tighten again any of this. When you over tighten, you put extra stress on all of the components. The screws will actually stretch. Now you're going steel into aluminum, so the steel is probably not going to stretch as much as the aluminum will. And you're actually going to compress the aluminum more because it's going into the aluminum, so it's pulling the aluminum. So that is something to keep in mind. I mean, worst case, you will strip it, and then that's not good at all. Although you could manage with 3 screws, you could manage with 2. But better to have all 4. Now, another reason why you may want to go in this type of pattern and not fully tighten them all until the end is because you could warp the aluminum. That's the reason why. So when you're building kits, it's one of the reasons why you tighten everything in a pattern slowly, and it's so that you don't accidentally tweak the chassis or tweak something else. And there we go. All right, so now this is the screw. Now I will be removing this afterwards. This is just to show you, and the reason why is I cannot tighten this fully when this is on. But just want to show you how. Well, the easiest thing would be to do this. So go ahead and put the screw in here. Don't tighten it all the way, obviously. Leave enough gap so that this can slide in. So this, so I don't have to remove it. Now, when you do this, you can actually see if you have enough gap. So here, this one, it's a little too close, it's not touching, but I would want to separate this more. So I would push the ring farther in. All right, and I have plenty of gap right in here. So I have about a 1 millimeter gap. Now, the other thing I could do is solder this off and come back. Why? Because the ring's already hitting the chassis right here. So that's something to keep in mind. This one was an issue, but I soldered slightly different. So again, the fan, you can lay this down completely. Now, if you lay this down completely, it will give you lower center of gravity. It's not that much though. But one of the things to keep in mind is the air, as it's blowing, it's actually blowing through here and into the motor. So you're reducing the amount of air that can actually come out. So that's something to consider. Now you can mount this. Again, I would have to switch the wires, but I can't push this. But this could go, I'm going to remove this, at the top. You can mount it back here if you want. I'm going to mount it this way. The reason why is the car's moving this way. Air's coming in and up the body this way. I don't want the fan fighting against the air coming in. So I want the air that's coming in to go through the fan into the motor. So this, I will actually be mounting right about here. And again, you want to make sure that you have a gap, that this is not touching. And that's what you would do. Now, again, make sure that you tighten this one first. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And one of the things to note also when you're tightening, make sure that you put some pressure on the larger end. Usually the smaller end will walk toward the big end, but just in case. There it is. And that goes right in there. Like I said, do not over tighten anything. And if you see from different angles, so you can see that there's clearly a gap between the wires, a very nice gap. So the fan will blow air, it'll hit all the laminations. There's a gap, I'm not sure the camera can pick it up, but there's a clear gap right in here. So you want to make sure that there's a gap in there. And there's a gap on this other side. So the air will go in, hit the laminations. It'll actually hit over here as well, cool the motor down, and that's what you can do. So again, two different options. You can just buy this, or you can buy this. Now, if you buy just the shroud or fan blaster, you're going to have to buy this in order to mount it. Keep that in mind. Well, I hope this is helpful. I hope this gives you ideas on cooling your RC, mainly your TCs. Thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe if you have not, and I'll catch you in the next one.
What? Oh, my hair! My tongue! My rod!